The king in the north!
Dracarys.
I will hurt you for this.
I am the sword in the darkness.
Lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
Let me give you some advice, bastard.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
Aegon, fourth of his name, is remembered by history as the Unworthy. Quite a feat considering the other kings of Westeros. But even in a family not known for equanimity, Aegon stands out for spiteful incompetence.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Icenfire here, and welcome to the channel. Over the years, in the long history of the Iron Throne and House Targaryen's rule, there has been a great many conflicts between the family. Everything from petty squabbles to full-on dynastic disputes for succession. But one of these disputes potentially stands above the rest in terms of action, suspense, and the sheer number of intriguing characters that were involved. When King Aegon IV, also known as King Aegon the Unworthy, did the unprecedented by legitimizing every one of his bastards out of sheer spite on his deathbed, which plunged the realm into chaos, leading to the first of 5 Blackfyre Rebellions. King Aegon the Unworthy is among the worst Targaryen kings in the history of Westeros, and he would often crash with his son and true-born heir, Daemon Targaryen, on a great many issues. His relationship with his son became so bad over the years that at one point Aegon threatened to disavow his true-born son Daemon and appoint one of his bastards as his heir, of which he had many. But eventually, one would emerge as his favorite in Daemon Waters. Aegon favored him so much, in fact, that he had Daemon renounce his bastard name and take up the Valyrian steel Blackfyre name in its stead, the name of the Targaryen Valyrian steel ancestral sword, and then proceeded to bestow that very same sword onto Daemon, which was a huge sign that Aegon favored Daemon over Daemon. But Daemon would go on to remain the heir, as he was Aegon's only true-born son. Until, on his deathbed, Aegon would go on to do the unthinkable and truly earn his nickname, the Unworthy, as he legitimized every one of his bastards on his deathbed, including Daemon Blackfyre. Then, in 184 AC, King Aegon the Unworthy passed away, with Daemon II Targaryen officially ascending the Iron Throne. And among his first acts as king, he did everything he could to try and undo the great many of bad policies that his father had enacted during his reign. Yet, not every High Lord applauded Daemon's reforms, as some of them had grown very rich off the previous policies. It was right around then where some lords began to approach Daemon Blackfyre in secret, wanting him to press his own claim for the Iron Throne, with Daemon declining their offer each time, at first. But eventually, Daemon's resolve would begin to wear down. Maester Yandel considers it likely that it had been Aegon Rivers, Daemon's younger half-brother, who managed to convince Daemon in the end to rebel. And even according to King Mycor I Targaryen, it had been both Aegon Rivers and Fireball, the Master of Arms at the time, who played the biggest role in convincing Daemon to press his own claim for the Iron Throne. And after Aegon Rivers married Daemon's eldest daughter, Calla, many other lords and knights joined in Daemon's side, wishing him to rebel. Later, in 196 AC, the first Blackfyre Rebellion would officially begin, and it would go on to last around a year. With Daemon around a month away from pressing his own claim, Daemon II Targaryen found out about Daemon's moves to rebel, with many claiming that Brynden Rivers, aka Bloodraven, was the one who found out about this and tipped Daemon off. Brynden Rivers, aka Bloodraven, was a bastard son of Aegon IV Targaryen as well, and was rumored to have dabbled heavily in magic. Daemon Targaryen would go on to reverse the colors of House Targaryen's sigil, taking for his own sigil a black dragon on a red field instead, and would later become known as the Black Dragon, with the opposing Daemon becoming the Red Dragon. And at this point, lines were clearly drawn and the Blackfyre Rebellion was officially underway. It was said that over half of the realm declared for Daemon, although many claim that that was an over-exaggeration, with many of the great houses continuing to support Daemon's claim. Throughout the course of the war, many battles were fought in many different places, from the Westerlands, to the Vale, to the Riverlands, and even the Reach. Fireball would go on to attack the Westerlands, killing Lord Lefort at the gates of Lannisport, and then would go on to defeat Lord Daemon Lannister as well. At the crossing of the Mandor, Sir Quentyn slew all of Lady Pentrose's sons, except for the youngest, who he spared out of respect. After suffering a few defeats during the war, King Daemon II became to realize that his Hand of the King was ineffectual, and begun to question his loyalty, which eventually led to him being replaced by Lord Hayford. Down in the Reach, however, the Loyalist forces were led by Lord Leo Tyrell, who would go on to win a great many of notable victories against Daemon Blackfyre's forces down south. The first Blackfyre Rebellion, however, would come to a decisive ending during the Battle of the Redgrass Field, during which we would witness one of the most legendary single combat fights in the history of A Song of Ice and Fire, between Daemon Blackfyre and Sir Gawain Corbray. Upon Daemon's approach to King's Landing, he was met by House Arryn's Donald Arryn, leading a force of Targaryen loyalists trying to stop them, but fortunately for the rebels, Daemon managed to utterly shatter their lines, leaving the loyalist forces in great peril. And just when all hope seemed lost, Sir Gawain Corbray of the Kingsguard arrived with some much-needed reinforcements. With the battle raging all around them, Sir Gawain Corbray and Daemon Blackfyre would eventually come face to face during the battle, with Daemon wielding the Targaryen Valyrian steel sword Blackfyre, and Sir Gawain Corbray wielding the Valyrian steel sword Lady Furlong. The duel would go on to last nearly an hour and was considered quite the sight to behold, partly due to the violent clash of Valyrian steel on Valyrian steel. But eventually Daemon would gain the upper hand, slashing Sir Gawain Corbray's helm and blinding him. At which point Daemon proceeded to dismount off of his horse and made sure that Gawain Corbray was not trampled by oncoming stampedes, and ordered that the maester attend to him. And ironically, this random act of kindness that Daemon would bestow onto his enemy would ultimately be his downfall. With Daemon dismounting off of his horse to make sure Gawain Corbray was seen safely off the field, this ultimately proved his fatal mistake, as it gave Brynden Rivers the perfect amount of time to set up his archers. By this point, Brynden Rivers had secured a position atop the Weeping Ridge, which gave them a clear view of the entire battlefield. It was in that moment that Bloodraven began to rain countless arrows down on Daemon and his son, killing them both instantly. And with that, Daemon the First Blackfyre met his end, with some going as far as saying that even blood magic was involved, as Bloodraven was heavily known to be involved in blood magic and sorcery. After the death of Daemon, his brother Aegon Rivers claimed Blackfyre and rallied the rebels by leading a charge against Bloodraven's forces. In the ensuing duel, Aegon took out one of Bloodraven's eyes. However, before Aegon and the rebel forces could claim total victory, Baelor Breakspear had arrived with a host of Dornish spearmen and Stormlanders, while Baelor's younger brother, Mycor Targaryen, rallied what was left of the vanguard. It was at that moment that Baelor Breakspear proceeded to crush the remainder of the rebel forces against Mycor's shield wall, in a move that would become known as the Hammer and the Anvil, effectively ending the first Blackfyre Rebellion. And while the exact number of combatants that took place during the Battle of the Redgrass Field is unknown, it is said that 10,000 men went on to lose their lives that day, with many more becoming maimed or wounded. In the aftermath, King Daeron's punishment was far more severe than anyone anticipated, with anyone that supported Daemon's claim being stripped of their land, wealth, and titles, on top of each of them having to give up a family member as a hostage to the royal court. The Battle of the Redgrass Field went on to be the defining moment of the Blackfyre Rebellion, and many believed had Daemon won that battle, he probably would have gone on to take King's Landing with relative ease and maybe even have won the war. Aegon Rivers, however, managed to survive the battle, and managed to reclaim Daemon's sword Blackfyre from the battlefield and escaped with Daemon's widow and his remaining children. From there, they would go on to journey to the Free Cities in Essos, where Aegon would go on to form the Golden Company, a group of legendary sellswords whose goal was to get a Blackfyre on the Iron Throne. And there you have it, folks, the first of 5 Blackfyre rebellions that get kicked off after King Aegon IV Targaryen legitimized all of his bastards on his deathbed. But that is going to do it for the Blackfyre Rebellions Part 1. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting a like on your way out, as it really helps the channel. And subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as well to stay up to date on all of our upcoming content, as we will be covering all things A Song of Ice and Fire and House of the Dragon. And I want to give a thank you to everybody out there for watching, and a huge thank you to all of the new channel members for joining. And until next time, stay classy, Westeros, and we will see you on the next one.